Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Aftermath series. Let us waste no time at all and dive right into this week's episode of Critical Role. Oh my goodness, what a way to end that episode. And even better or worse, depending on how you look at it, we gotta wait 2 weeks to see what happens next. But before we get into all that craziness, there is just a few things that I want to talk about. Starting off really with Avantika and Ford and their sort of relationship they have going. Now, obviously, it's sort of like a, from what we can gather, it's more of like a business casual thing that they're doing. You know, they both seek the same goals. You know, Avantika may be using her feminine wiles to gain the favor of Ford in some way. But what's interesting is when Vera sort of pulled Jester aside and told her to sort of watch out for Ford, you know, keep an eye on him because of potential foul play on Avantika's part. At least that's what I gathered from it. I don't know if that's what she meant or if she meant something completely different. But then when we also look at what was written in the journal, we know that Vandrin had sort of brought Avantika into this whole world of Ukito and all of that sort. It's possible, as Clay sort of pointed out, or tried to understand if there was a romantic relationship between Vandrin and Avantika. It's possible there was. But considering Vera warned Jester about Ford's safety, it's possible that Vandrin and Avantika did have some sort of a romantic relationship. And obviously things went south there, so it's possible Vera is trying to warn Jester that it might happen again, but this time with Ford. And given all this planning that they were doing this episode and what they hope to accomplish in sort of parting ways with Avantika, if you will, Ford really doesn't seem 100% on board with it. He knows that Avantika has been the closest thing he's had to answers with everything that's been going on. So it's possible that he really doesn't want to part ways with her just yet. But now that they do have the journal, it's also now possible that he may think that they don't need her anymore. But now we have the entire craziness that was this last 10 minutes. You know, the plan that they made was good, as, you know, Matt said, and, you know, it was well thought out. Just poor rolls and certain circumstances going not in their favor. But overall, it went well until the next morning when Avantika found out that there was sort of an incident. And it seemed like everyone sort of panicked. Now, obviously, that's completely natural, but with panicking comes mistakes and having to rush through things, and they were unable to, you know, hide the book or any of the contents. Jester was able to get rid of the gems, I guess. We don't know if anyone saw that. I'm assuming not, but at this point it probably doesn't even matter. And everything was probably going to be fine until Vera, I'm assuming she's using locate object, probably on the book, or maybe any of the several gems, but most likely the book, since that was the one that was sort of hidden behind a compartment and trapped. If she didn't have that, the party could have totally played it cool, and Avantika may not even have given them a second thought. But with her casting that spell and then clearly looking towards Caleb, and then Caleb immediately casting that spell, which is so flippin' awesome. I just, like, visualizing that all of that transpiring, like the build up, like imagine like this super tense music and like a bunch of like panning shots of like everyone looking around like, who the did it? And then just like the climax of the music and then Caleb just immediately casting that spell. Oh my god, just complete like cinematic masterpiece right there, just waiting to happen. Oh my gosh, that moment was so perfect and such a great cliffhanger to end on. That's like a season finale right there. But now, what does this mean? So immediately I can assume that Avantika and her crew will immediately turn hostile, maybe a bit confused at first, but I think they won't attack to kill. They may attack to just apprehend. But we also have to see what the rest of the Mighty Nine are gonna do and what Caleb's plan here is. Was he gonna cast that spell and jump into the water? Like what's his plan here? And so to try to understand what the rest of the Mighty Nine is going to do, I guess we can sort of go down the list of each of them and try to figure out what their thought process will be after seeing this. I think all of them will be confused, extremely confused, and extremely caught off guard, as will everyone else. But the only one that I see immediately rushing to Caleb's aid is not. I feel like everyone else will hesitate a little bit and sort of try to gauge everyone else's reactions to see what they should do. I think Jester may, if not immediately, eventually, within the next few moments following the incident, try to charm person Avantika and Virat, potentially as an option. I could definitely see Bo and Ford maybe jumping to their aid, or I could see Ford trying to resolve this peacefully. And if not Ford, I could also definitely see Clay trying to resolve this in a diplomatic manner. But depending on how this transpires, I think the end result will be the same. Avantika is not going to trust them after this, and someone's gonna die. Someone is dying in the next episode. That's my crazy, bold prediction, someone's dying. And my guess is Orly. Yep, that's right. The Turtle Bard is gonna try to swoop into Caleb's defense, and he's gonna take an arrow for Caleb. He had a good run, but sacrifices have to be made. And there were a few other small things that happened in this episode that were just slightly notable. One of them being Jester taking on the form of Molly. I sort of took that as a symbolic meaning of Molly just, watching over them still. Nothing too much deeper than that. Just a nice nod to know that Molly is still around. Another one being when they were initially making the plan and Bo was sort of wanting to be the one that went onto the ship with Jester because she said it's sort of her area of expertise, and not was saying how it's, her defining trait, this thievery and burglary and such. And upon saying that, Bo kind of got this very maybe depressed look on her face. Maybe she's heard that before from her father, perhaps, and how the life of a thief will amount to nothing and is disgraceful and such like that. And so those memories just sort of came back to her when Knot had said that about her. And without missing a beat, Jester noticed this sort of change in her physicality and immediately tried to change it to something positive. She complimented the way her hair looks. Obviously, that's a strange thing to compliment on. She's just always trying to make sure her friends are happy. And then the last thing is, I guess it's a few things. Jester and Caleb's conversation. Now, before I get into that though, this move that Caleb pulled is a rather bold one, I guess you could say, at the end of the episode. But could we have seen it coming? Now, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but looking back with the conversation that Jester and Caleb had and then Ford and Caleb had in the previous episode, there's this theme of Caleb sort of coming out of his shell and becoming more of the person that he wants to be. He's not the same old hobo wizard that we met episode 1. He's definitely become a lot more comfortable, a lot more powerful, as we've seen. And with this power, he's regained a bit of confidence that he once had. So as out of the blue this move seems, it's possible that a few of you critters out there may have looked a bit deeper into all these conversations and character developments that have happened and can make sense of this move that he pulled. Maybe it doesn't seem random. We know that Caleb doesn't really take risks. He's always very calculated in what he does. But is this a break in that pattern? Or does he actually have something up his sleeve that we're not aware of yet? All of these questions will hopefully be answered in 2 weeks' time, since there's no episode next week. So sad to hear, but what an episode to end on. I'm sure you are all just as excited as I am, and hopefully this next week goes by fast. Let me know what you guys think down below. I want to hear everyone's thoughts and emotions to that entire episode. These past few episodes have all felt really high stress. The Mighty Nine just cannot catch a break at all. And with all that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend and Thanksgiving, and I will see you all in 2 weeks.